This week on Proper DIY, not one of the sexiest jobs, but definitely one that will save you money if you know how to do it. And that is how to replace a water immersion heater. So a little job this week that I can't avoid because my immersion heater has just packed up on my hot water system. This is its replacement that's just turned up from Amazon. And I've been lucky that on the existing, I've got the name and the serial number. So all I've done is order exactly the same, assuming that the fittings and everything is going to be the same. So it actually fits. Now, how long an immersion heater actually lasts really depends on two things. Firstly, how often you use it. If you're going to use your gas central heating to heat water 12 months of the year, then it's going to last near enough forever. But we tend to use this immersion heater in the summer rather than putting our gas heating on just because it's easier. So our one has lasted maybe 5 or 6 years. It also depends on whether you live in a hard water area, which we do. If you live in a hard water area, all these elements are going to get really calcified up and minerals all over them. And that's going to cut down on the life of the thing as well. So I think that's one reason why this has just gone pop and I need to replace it. So to replace this, the first thing I need to do is to drain the tank of water. So I'm going to take the old one out and put the new one in. Now that means really I need to do two things. Firstly, I need to stop any new water going into the tank. And to do that depends on what type of system you've got. If you've got a vented system, that means you've got a tank in the loft that's feeding your water tank. That's an old-fashioned system. Then on that route somewhere is going to be a stopcock. And that's not going to be under mains pressure, it's just going to be the pressure from the tank in the loft down to your tank. But if you've got a relatively new central heating system, that's going to be an unvented system. That means that everything inside this tank is under mains pressure. The water coming in is mains pressure, the water going out to your shower is under mains pressure. And the way we stop water coming in from that is to actually use your main stopcock in your house. Turn the water off, turn the mains off, and that stops it refilling up. So the second thing we need to do is actually drain the tank. And that means that we need to find a drain point that's always at the bottom that we can connect a hose to, undo, and all the water will flow out to the drain. But the first conundrum I've got is that when I look at the bottom of my tank, I've got two of them. So this is the bottom of my tank, and you can see I've got two drain points here. So I need to work out which one will drain the hot water out of the tank. So if I follow the pipes back, let's say I can follow this pipe up here, we get back to this big sort of multi-valve brass block on my heating system. Now this is called a multi-block and it does various things, and there's a good chance you've got the same on your system. There's a non-return valve in it, there's pressure release valve, and also a pressure regulator. Now, if you see one of these, any of the pipes coming off will be cold mains pressure pipes. So that's what we're trying to turn off going into our cylinder. So if you follow the pipe back down, this is the one, and I need to connect the hose to this. The other drain point, if you're interested, is my boiler stroke radiator and heating system, which is essentially a closed system that runs water all through my radiators and underfloor heating, which I definitely don't want to drain down at the moment. I connect the hose to the drain point. If it's loose, then definitely use a Jubilee clip to stop it coming off. To drain the tank, it's also important to open a hot tap somewhere within that system to allow air to get into the tank as the water leaves. That's not good. At this speed, we're going to be here all day. I've been draining the water for about half an hour now, and it's still dribbling out. But the problem is I have no way of knowing how much I've drained. Because this is an insulated tank like they all are, there's insulation between this outside cover and the tank inside. So you can't even knock it and sort of work out where the water level is. However, I have just spotted that I've got a tapped plug here that says secondary return. That doesn't look like it's being used for anything. So I'm thinking that if I can crack that open and open that, then I can get some sort of gauge of where we are water-wise. If water starts coming out, then it's obviously above it. If air starts sucking in, then the water's going to be below it, at which case I can take that out, maybe get my little camera in there and see how we're doing. I gingerly open the plug just in case water starts streaming out, which it doesn't. This allows me to feed in my waterproof endoscope so I can see what level the water is at. There's the seam of the tank, and then on the right hand side is the water. That's the water level there. That's reflecting off of the water. And that's only at that point. So yeah, I would say the water level is there, which, to be honest with you, is good news. That means that the tank is like getting on for half empty. So we're moving in the right direction, even though it might be a bit slow. With the endoscope, I found the element of the heater, and you can see the water draining down around it, albeit quite a bit speeded up. Wow, look at that. That really shows the element really calcified up. But more importantly, it actually shows it above the waterline. So I can now take that out without the threat of loads of water coming out. Now, I'm not saying that you need a camera like this to do this job, but it's a good example of where if you've invested in tools, you'll find that they come out more often on projects that you didn't think you were going to need them. And I'm only using this because I own one. If you don't know what this is, go and have a look at this video up here where I review this, and you'll be amazed how cheap these are. I can now get on with the proper job, which is to take this out and put the new one in. But before I do that, this electrical cable needs to be disconnected. The thing is turned off, it's not heating at all, but you do need to take this out. So if you're not confident of your electrical skills, you do need to get an electrician in to remove that. So there you go, my electrician has just been round and disconnected everything. He is a fast worker, I must admit. The one thing you're going to need, if you're going to try to tackle this job yourself, is one of these big spanners. Before I go on, I have to say this spanner wasn't nearly as useful as I thought it was going to be, as it's so thin, it keeps sliding off the octagonal head of the heater. Maybe a box type spanner like this would have worked better. But anyway, instead I tried using my biggest adjustable spanner that I own. Whee! That is what we're looking for. The easiest part of this process, ironically, is actually taking out the old element and just replacing it with the new one, once you've cracked the seal, that is. There we go. Yeah. So on the existing one, I can't really see very much like plumber's type putty at all. And I must admit, I'm not really overly keen on plumber's putty. So I am just going to use some PTFE tape around the thread here, but it's got a nice new rubberized gasket there, just in there, which should really seal it. And that just fits back in there quite nicely. So actually changing the element doesn't take more than 2 minutes. Let's just see if I can nip that up. Yeah, there we go. That looks pretty tidy. Got a good seal on the back there. 19.1, so that's should read anywhere between 15 and 25. So 19.1 is just what we want. So by the magic of television, my electrician has just been in and wired it all in and tested it like you should do, but you don't want to turn that on until it's surrounded in water, and obviously the tank is empty at the moment, so I'm just going to leave that at the moment before I empty the tank. Seriously, if you're going to do it yourself, it's very, very easy. Just follow the instructions that come with the heater. The most important thing is to make sure it's earthed, absolutely 100% important, and everything's nicely done up, nice and tight. So now that is on, the other plug is back in, then I don't think there's anything stopping me refilling with water. Let's just hope we don't get any leaks. That is coming in at a rate of knots. And once the water is flowing out consistently on the hot side of the tap, I know the tank is full and I can check for leaks. I can now turn the new immersion heater on, although that's going to be 2, 3, 4 hours before it's anywhere like shower temperature, and throw this crusty old thing away because I don't need that anymore. I hope this has given you some ideas on how to replace your own immersion heater if it goes, and save some money. I will see you next time.